JV here with the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association. Reasonable Doubt here with fellow host Justin Harris. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Very good, very good. Very special guest, 209 Judge Brian Warren. Hello.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
You have to do something with your fingers.
Kicking it to Justin.
Hey, see, Mark with the cameras. Mark with the cameras. Here at Houston Media Source, support your local media source and your local bar association. So what's up? We're back in the studio. We're coming back, Judge.
First guest in the studio in 18 months.
18 months.
I feel, a lot of pressure, huh?
Ah, well.
I waited until the show started to tell you that. So.
Yeah, no, exactly. I should have invited Abigail on. I wonder if she would have come.
Oh, well, I play the fifth.
That would have been great.
Yeah, maybe next time she can come.
Yeah.
Well, I will say...
it's good seeing both of you, by the way. I mean, I know we all go through this, but it's just nice seeing everybody in person again. Right. I think a lot of us are.
It really is. You know, thank you so much for coming back. You're the first live guest on the show. Yeah. It really is amazing to see people back in person. Speaking of people back in person, how is it with your court?
Louder. Much louder. I've done the old Debbie Strickland trick of turning off like some of the lights so it feels more like a library to try to keep the sound down, and it actually works. But everybody's so happy to see each other. Just you have these guys you haven't seen, guys and gals you haven't seen for how many, almost a year now, and people are just running into each other, and it's just it turns into a cocktail hour.
It really does.
Yeah, which is good too. I mean, that's the nice thing about what we do. We deal with some really horrible situations, but we all seem to get along pretty well and treat each other with respect, which is much better than the plaintiff's bar for the most part.
I was thinking about along the same lines regarding the noise in the courtroom. So, as you know, and as we all know, I mean, there's been lawyers that have been coming in the courthouse through the pandemic, and it's been quiet.
Yeah.
Me, right? I've been there.
Not quiet, but
it's been not quiet, but you know, you notice the sound.
Oh, absolutely, and it's also the number of people too. As more and more people get in the building, you know, it gets a lot louder, and especially when you're so used to an empty courtroom. You know, there were days where we'd just be, you know, I'd be sitting up there and everybody be on Zoom, and so the courtroom is just quiet as a church mouse. You know. Speaking
of Zoom, are you keeping Zoom? Have you kept Zoom? Or I don't know because I'm always there in person. I tell my clients you got to go anyways.
Yeah, I have no interest in having defendants on Zoom. You need to talk to Judge Deshaun Jones about that, who's had some interesting experiences.
Sure.
I think he wins for the best story as far as Zoom goes, but I just, you know, there's no cases work out while someone's on Zoom, so there's really no reason having them, right? Like you're not going to be able to talk. You can't talk to your client on Zoom. You can't console him. You can't give him options. You can't have an honest conversation with him. So nothing happens. So I've never really wanted defendants on Zoom. I've always had attorneys, but I'm moving towards scheduling orders and stopping the mass people coming in and out and trying to eliminate some of that stuff. But I'm going to do discovery conferences via Zoom, long story short of how to answer your question. So I'm going to do that with attorneys on Zoom, and I'm not requiring defendants to be there to say, hey, do you have your discovery in this case? I mean, defendant wants to come, he can, or she can for that matter. But having people there to watch lawyers discuss what evidence is there and what's not, I mean, that's kind of useless and taking off work and more people in the courtroom. And so I'm just doing that via Zoom. And obviously, if you're there, you're happy to be there in person as well. But that's how I'm transitioning with the use of Zoom.
So you mentioned two things, and if I can dovetail on them.
Yeah.
The first one is scheduling orders, and the second thing is using Zoom for, I guess, in a setting within your scheduling order. How do those two things play into part?
You know, and I need to give a lot of credit to Abigail Anastasia, who really took the lead on a lot of this and kind of built the framework. And then I kind of stole a lot of what she was working on and just kind of put it into practice. So, I mean, she took the ball 95 yards and I took it the last 5, and that's probably even being too generous to me. But, you know, we used to have like all these different settings, right? Like we have non-issue, dispo settings, you know, and the only thing that ever really meant something was arraignment and pretrial conference. Arraignment means it's not indicted. Pretrial conference means it's about to go to trial. But we had all these people coming in for no reason whatsoever. Like, what's happening in court tonight? I don't know. I'll figure it out when I get there. And our building can't handle the number of people. Our lawyers are way overworked. You know, we went from, it's not like we've doubled all of our dockets, but it's not like we doubled the number of defense attorneys. We haven't doubled the number of prosecutors. Right. Like, people are way too busy. And that means you're not doing your clients justice. The DA's office isn't getting their work done. So in an effort to eliminate all these useless settings, a while back I started just resetting everything for 90 days when it first came in if they had lawyers, because nothing happens. Nobody pleads. Nobody should probably plead unless there's some extenuating circumstances, but there's no reason to have defendants there every 30 days to find out what's indicted.
Right.
You know, if you're working on a packet, there's no reason for me to have a defendant there while you're working on a packet.
What kind of packet do you mean?
I mean grand jury packet, sorry, pre-indictment. You know, if you're, you know, that's not something defendant needs to take off work to get there because you think you can get a case no bill. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Sure.
And we have these people coming into court all the time, these defendants, and nothing's happened. And if you have a guy, you know, you have 5 arraignment cases, you're going in and signing 5 resets where nothing's happening. And that's just time out of your day that doesn't really, I mean, you don't work out cases, you don't get ready for trial, nothing happens other than you just running around like a chicken with your head cut off.
Right.
And we're so busy now, we got to do something. So
let me ask you, does the judiciary recognize, and this is kind of a softball question, but I
like
also want to
softballs.
ask, well, it's softball in the sense of, so for a year, you know, some things happened, but nothing happened, but it didn't stop the cases from coming in. And so not only do defense attorneys, we have like a year of on pause, okay? And we try as many cases as we can and dispose as many cases as we can, but we have like a year of backlog, and then again, still the new cases that come through. Does the judiciary recognize, I'd imagine that the defense attorneys are overworked, or at least working a lot and like have too much to do, but also how as judges, and y'all recognize it too, and I suppose, I mean, I guess a scheduling order is the way to go forward on that? Like,
I think that's part of the solution, right? You know, especially, we used to do things a certain way, and that was way before body cams. And now, you know, I remember the first case I ever got body cams on when I was defense attorney, and I completely underquoted. I thought this would be easy. I had a client who was a rather large individual who I'd represented numerous times, and actually joked to them, how'd you evade from the cops? You can't outrun anyone. And he laughed. He's like, you're right, I'm not guilty of this one.
Right.
But, you know, and I didn't charge him a whole lot, and he was a good client, and he was involved in lots of other stuff. And so I was like, I'm gonna get this misdemeanor evading dismissed. And I eventually did, but it was until I had to sit through 12 hours of body cam.
Right.
Sure.
And so you need to be in your office watching that body cam on any given day. And God forbid you plead somebody without watching it, right? And that's a huge problem. And so you being in court and resetting things, that's a problem. And we need to get those body cams in, we need to get discovery thing. Prosecutors assigned to my court being there, you know, till 4 in the afternoon, you know, it's not going to work out the docket. It's just going to mean my docket's going to get larger because they can't work on their cases.
Right.
You know, and if I expect them to have stuff done and turned over to the defense, they need to be in their offices working. So I think a bunch of us, and there are many judges who I hope will join this scheduling order. There's definitely a good handful of us who have decided to do this route. But the idea is if you're there in court, you're there for a reason. And you're not there just because it's been 30 days and I missed JV, or Justin for that matter.
Well, that kind of hurts my feelings a little bit.
Yeah.
I thought that's what the scheduling order was for.
Just more Justin.
Talk to us about the scheduling order. Where did you craft this from? What ideas did you take from, and what's it look like?
I borrowed.
I
appropriated property.
I said craft.
No, I mean, I would give her all the credit that she has been, Abigail Anastasia has been leading the line on this, and it's been wonderful and did all the hard work. And what really got me is one day I set a MAJ hearing, and it was only so, and it was one of these cases where the guy's on for aggravated robbery, and they're saying a cop saw him shooting a gun out of a car and it's all on body cam. And he's been perfect. So it's either he's doing this and we need a motion to adjudicate hearing, or they got the wrong guy and we just need to put this guy back on deferred and let him be successful. And so I had to set a fake MAJ hearing on a Friday afternoon so that we could get the body cam, because that's the only way the HPD would turn him over. And I was like, this is the tag, this is the dog wagging the tail.
Right.
Like, this is, you know, this can't happen. Like, this is not the way this is gonna work. And so, it kind of got me moving on this scheduling order, and I kind of condensed it down a lot of there were a lot of great ideas in there, but ultimately I look at it like federal court. This is what's expected of you. You're coming to court and this is what I expect. So, you know, I'm resetting every case for 90 days if they have an attorney. If they don't, I'm going to bring them back until they do have an attorney, not
Sure.
revoke their bonds. But if they say, hey, I need 30 days to hire, it's like, yeah, it's great. They don't have an attorney in 30 days. I need to talk to them. And I need
Sure.
to say, okay, what's the plan? Like, be honest with yourself. Can you really afford one?
Right.
Because sometimes they want to, they think they can, they just can't.
Right.
But they need to be represented. And once they're represented by counsel, I don't need to see them for 90 days. And then let's get a plan about where we're going. Where are we going to be for discovery? So let's have a conference where we're coming in, figure out what we need in order to make a decision on the case. And then resetting it for a discovery conference. And that is for the state that is their drop dead date of turning over discovery. And I will carry that Monday to Monday until they do.
And for how long? What happens if they don't turn it over?
I'm going to order it depends on what it is, but I think
Sure.
the plan is that it's ordered to be turned over by the state. And if it's not, then we can have the officer down here and let's figure out what's going on. And it's just, you do that
Who's the burden to bring the officer down? The defense, or who's asking for the stuff, or the
No.
state who has the burden to provide it?
I think if it's in the state's possession, they have a legal obligation to provide it to you.
Sure,
And
they
so-
do. But,
yeah.
but who has to subpoena the officer to come?
The state would. I mean, they want to use that evidence in court. I need to know why it is and why they haven't disclosed it to you.
Do you reach a point where they have had enough time and you exclude the evidence?
I think that's the ultimate goal, right? Like if there is to put that burden on them, if they don't, then this is what's going to happen within reason.
Well, right, within reason, because I can totally see the other side. A defense attorney like Ruckhahn, they can't use this in court. But if let's just say there's a victim there's an alleged victim out there, and they're not being cooperative, and they have to go find them. I can see the court giving some sort of leeway.
It depends on what reasonable efforts they make.
Right, I agree. With that. Right.
Let's not set a drop dead date.
Right.
And that's the idea with the discovery orders. And then as far as the body cams go, which is the bane of everybody's existence, getting them, I talked to Eric Devlin about it, and I started thinking about, all right, this is a problem. How do we deal with it? And then my solution to this, and I know this is not necessarily fair to the defense, but the state can't get them to turn it over. So I have a standard discovery order, and I crafted it after blood discovery.
Sure.
So if you think, not that you wouldn't want to see it, not that you wouldn't watch it if I gave it to you if I was a prosecutor, but if you need it to make a decision, here it is, here's an order, just email it over to whatever agency has it. Once they get it, they got 21 days to do it. And you can do it all electronically, you can do it in court.
Oh, that'd
So
be
once
nice.
once the case is indicted, because I don't
Right.
think you're entitled to it to that point.
What if they don't turn it over in 21 days?
It's not going to be, it won't be used. I mean, obviously, if it benefits the defense,
The
I'm
defense
not,
can use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if, but that's what they need to do. I
Do you think it can ever go? I'm not asking you to commit to whether you would do this, but do you think an exclusion of the video itself could ever extend to officers' testimony
I've done
about
that
what
before.
would actually be on the video?
I've seen it.
I've done that before. I had a case set for trial, and it may have been, I don't remember who it was. It may have been Katie Farrell, but I don't remember.
Kate Farrell's on the show.
Oh.
She's watching here. Hey, what's
then-
up, Kate Farrell?
Hey, this may be you, it may not, but it was a DWI third, and it was a year and a half old. It's 18 months old, and it was, literally like when you rank the trials of what's going on any given Monday, it was like the 9th case I had, and everything else worked out. And I was like, great, I get to try another DWI. Happy days. And the defense asked for a continuance. I'm like, it's 18 months old, like what's going on? And she's like, we don't have the video. And I was like, what do you mean you don't have the video? And the prosecutors, we have the officer who's going to come testify. I'm like, no, that's not, you don't get to say,
Right.
yeah, this is a huge problem.
Right.
It's almost a best evidence rule in the sense of like,
Sure.
there's a contemporaneous video of this. Like, why don't we have it? Why hasn't it been disclosed? And the prosecutor can't get it. It's the cops who's not doing it. And
Right.
they're not going to testify. It's set for trial. You cannot do this to the defense.
Well, in
There was-
DWIs,
18 months.
I want the video on DWIs.
Well,
This was-
my guy sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's just if you watch the narrow part of like the field sobriety test. But if you watch the broader whole video and put things into context, usually things don't suck that bad.
And this was the video of the blood draw.
Oh.
So this wasn't actually on the scene. So it was like a small little part. I mean, it wasn't like I was going to exclude everything, but
Right.
the blood draw's not coming in,
It was in front of Judge Derbyshire, who she's presiding. It's a .21. This guy wraps his car around a tree, allegedly. Tries to flee when
Allegedly,
they try to take
he didn't crash the car?
Try to. Well, here's
The tree just like forced itself.
This
on
is
the car.
exactly what I asked
Self-defense,
the
the
jury.
tree
That's
attacked
exactly
him.
what I asked the jury. I asked the cop one question. Did you bring a video to corroborate anything you said? No. Pass. And that's the thing. That's the thing with videos. And Judge Derbyshire did a kind of contrarian thing at the time and said, the case is too old and we're going to have to try this thing. And if you don't have a video, so be it. The guy allegedly, nobody saw it, there's no video of it.
Right.
Wrapped his car around a tree and blew a .2. And I asked the cop one question, and it was a .21, and we walked him out the door, not guilty. But it takes someone to say, sorry, you can't use this. Now, in my opinion, I don't wear the crown, right? Heavy lies the crown. I don't wear the crown that says you can't use it. And granted, in my opinion, it's different for you can't use the video in a DWI versus you can't use the testimony of something in some sort of allegation.
If the officers are refusing, what we're talking about in my court is I've issued an order for them to turn it over. They've refused and violated that order. So it's not
that's a whole other thing.
That's why I feel a little more comfortable about what I'm doing. The 18 months on the DWI, and it may not have been Katie. I'm sure she's going to correct me like any minute.
I haven't done it where you at.
Yeah, but either way, that's not fair to the defense. It's not fair to the, and frankly, it's not fair to the state. It doesn't help anything.
Right.
If and not that cops lie, and I'm not trying to say that.
No,
occasionally there are bad cops, as we well know, but most of them are good people, right? But it's not like they always have the best memories.
Sure.
And when it's on video, you need to see that. And the state, if they don't get that video, there are cases they will dismiss once they see the video. And there's cases you're going to plead once you see the video.
Right.
Especially on a DWI, if the guy looks rock solid and there's, you have weird facts on it, it's going to be something that maybe this case gets dismissed. And if it's just the opposite, maybe you end up pleading it. And that just kind of moves everything along and makes us focus on what we need to focus and not waste time on this other stuff.
Do you have a timetable? I mean, you mentioned 60 days, or pardon me, was it 60 or 90?
I'm doing 90 days from arraignment to that first, I call it a case management setting, where we're just kind of talking about what do we need to do to go forward. And that's assuming they're represented by counsel. Doesn't mean you can't talk to me about bond issues. If his bond's too high, he wants to travel, etc. That all can happen. He doesn't need to be there, or she doesn't need to be there. That's a waste of everybody's time. You can always come by. But just for the main reason of actually having the case, he's coming to court because we needed to see what is the plan going forward. And that's why we're going to court. It's not a non-trial issue. Everything's non-trial until it's trial. That's dumb. Why are you here? We need to figure out where we're going on this case. And when we have that discovery conference, if you have all your discovery in, email us. Tell us you don't need this conference. You don't need to stop by.
Sure.
You don't need to zoom in. You don't need to walk by. Hey, we got everything. We're good. And then the next step is that status conference where it's all right, where my expectation is that the defendant will have met with you and sat down and gone over this evidence and had an idea about where y'all stand going forward.
Do you have a date, a number of days that you'd like, or is there a deadline?
It's in my scheduling order as far as times, but just separating everything from complex to non-complex.
Sure.
And then dealing with them differently. And there's no hard rules. If you think the case is complex, just like federal court.
Sure.
Say it's complex. An ag robbery can be pretty simple, right?
Sure.
It's one witness. It's
two
a cop.
witness. Yeah, it's a 1-1.
Yeah, it may just be one witness. If it's a woman says this guy robbed me at the gas station in my car, there's no other stuff there. There's no video, right? Guy puts a gun.
Right.
He then takes the car, drives off. She calls the cops. That same cop just happens to be there. Pulls him over 2 blocks later. It's a 2-witness case.
It's an assault with a gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Not theft with a gun.
Not that it's a good thing, but that's not a complicated case. But it could be. We have these ATM thefts. They get real complicated real quick. Especially
typically there's multiple people involved. Typically it could be filed as an engaging.
Yeah.
And those things can get pretty complex. A lot of these accusations regarding some of the gangs in Houston are just phenomenal. The amount of discovery the engaging in organized crime in Houston is just mind-boggling.
Well,
yeah.
That's, and Kim, I'll give her credit for that, has developed or devoted a lot of resources into prosecuting those cases. And so I think we're seeing more of that. However you feel about it, but obviously no one's a fan of violent crime, so maybe it is kind of a good thing that they've.
Only because
it's probably good for business.
Only because I find it fascinating.
Yeah. How long is your scheduling order? 1 page, 2 pages?
It's 2 pages.
We should have thought about this, but we could have loaded it up and then shown it on here, and you could have talked to us about it more.
If I may, Judge Fleischer just came in on the show. And today I had a conversation with him, or Judge had a conversation with me.
I pulled him aside and I said, Judge Fleischer, let me talk to you.
Why don't you step in the back real quick?
Yeah, I know. I was like,
Yes, sir.
I gotta,
what did I do?
yeah, whatever you want. I got to plea, but can you just like hold on? Anyways, Judge Fleischer today talked to me about he went and had a meeting or was going to have a meeting with HPD regarding body cameras. So I don't know if Judge, I don't know, zoom in. I'll send you the link, or on the Facebook. We would love to hear what your thoughts are, because Judge Warren was literally just talking about body cameras and how that's a big issue, and I know it's affecting misdemeanor courts.
I can't even imagine.
Oh, every one of them. I mean, because it's just.
It's a lot more street level arrest, right? Like you're talking about like the minimum of drugs, where it's usually some patrol officer sees something. You're talking about the assault family members, or just regular assault cases where you have multiple officers interviewing witnesses. I can't even imagine what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's on HPD.
I open files that are 18 months old. And my client's like, oh, I want to come in and watch the videos. I'm like, yeah, come on in. And I open the file like 3 or 4 days before, and I'm like, why do we not have videos?
Yeah.
We've subpoenaed these. We've sent discovery requests. Like, yeah, it's.
I'm just done.
I don't want Judge Fleischer's thoughts as much as I want to know how that meeting went and what HPD.
Well, I'm sending him the link here. I would love to hear what he said. He was going to meet with HPD about, hey, this whole like body camera thing is a big problem. That's particularly like, look, I know it's not difficult when, like, let's say a terroristic threat, right? You got one guy saying he did this, another guy saying he did that, and 911 call, and then some sort of body camera. Like the first 3 things takes 20 minutes. It should take a competent lawyer 20 or 30 minutes to evaluate, okay, what's the witness statement, what's the defense statement, and what's the offense report. Yeah. But then we wait 6 months to get the body camera, and then we get the body camera, and it takes 30 minutes to watch the body camera. Yeah. And that's the case. Like, there's nothing more to that. So you're talking.
No, and you may have witnesses. You may have those.
You may some ancillary
and
stuff.
And it may be some. You know, the thing with the body cameras too is that all of a sudden those cops interview a witness who just happens to be there. And then you're like, oh wow, I wish I would have talked to this guy 6 months ago. Right. You know, I wish I would have had my investigator out there because he remembered it, and maybe he just wasn't really cool about talking to the officer and just was like, I don't want to be involved. But you know, maybe when he knows it's his friend or his neighbor, or he may know something. But 6 months go by, and then you're trying to find this guy.
There's this one case, I don't know, a couple of years back. It's a DWI, and it's some case where
they all run together after a while.
It was like,
tree attack
is it really this guy's car? Is it not? And so what I did is there's this guy in the background, and on the body camera, right? And I screenshot him, and I blow him up, and my whole theory of the case is, who's this guy? Was he driving the car? Was he? You know, but the reality is that body camera, and I walked him out the door. I walked him right out the door, and all because of this. The body camera showed, you know, this guy who could have been a part of the case and who was obviously interviewed, but in the state's case, it wasn't developed and it wasn't there. But that is the kind of role that these body cameras can play, and you know, without them, it handicaps us.
No, and it also too is. Like, it just, what are we going to do? Reset every case for a year?
No.
Yeah, we'll see you back here in a year, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's not justice. It's not justice for a defendant. It's not justice for a potential victim. Like, nobody wants to be on bond for a year in a felony case. And if it's a serious thing where they're on ankle monitors and they're on drug testing, and, you know, like, their world is being tied to this one case. You know, and also, too, if you're a victim of a crime, you shouldn't have to wait a year to get some sort of closure on it. You know?
Both ways.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Both
ways. This whole, it stops. And, you know, frankly, you know, if you're on the stand and on a writ hearing and the crime's on video, and they, you know, one of the Schaefer's asks you, did you watch the video on the crime?
I know.
Right.
Hopefully at that point you pull out a form from your briefcase and said, no, but my client signed this saying he did not want to wait for it, was confident going forward. I advised him of the risk, and here it is. Yeah. I'll call this Justin's one.
Or I did, and it was not good.
Yeah.
I will say that we're not supposed to have anybody in jail for misdemeanors anymore these days, unless there's some sort of ancillary issue that keeps them there. However, those individuals who have some sort of ancillary issue that keeps them there, although like for example, they have a felony pending, but it's unrelated. Let's say it's unrelated. So the only reason they're in jail is because well, they haven't gotten a misdemeanor PR bond, and they actually got a PR bond in felony court. I have been seeing individuals pleading on a misdemeanor court just to get out. And
Yeah.
it's a problem when we don't have body cameras back.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sitting there like, I need to go, and yes, I've done it. But I put it on I put on the record and I'm like, dude, this isn't cool. And I am like Pontius Pilate in this thing, like this isn't cool at all. Without those body cameras, it's delayed justice, both for individuals accused of crime and also the victims that are victims of the actual crime.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's house is broken into, if they're a victim of ag robbery, no one's saying for the most part, it's usually the defense is, she was never robbed.
Right.
You know, it's usually you got the wrong guy. I wasn't the one who did this. It doesn't mean that victim's feelings or that victims didn't go through this.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
It may just be that the wrong person was charged, and that's kind of the goal here in this system. A big goal should be assuring that no one is falsely convicted of a crime.
Judge Anastasio sent something, if I may read it. The Board of District Judges Docket Management Committee has worked hard to create case scheduling procedures tailored to address the unique challenges facing the Harris County criminal justice system. A pilot program was developed and scheduled to commence once in-person proceedings could safely resume. Starting September 17th, approximately half of the criminal district courts will participate in the pilot program and implement the procedures and orders developed by the Docket Management Committee. The new procedures set clear expectations and timetables for case progression. A nuts and bolts training will be provided to the courts, defense bar, and prosecution prior to the September start date. This is from Judge Abigail Anastasio, District Court Judge. I'd like to talk. Do you know about this? I mean,
184th District Court.
184th District Court Judge Abigail Anastasio.
Yeah, this has been her. She has spent ridiculous amounts of hours on this. This is her baby. She's done this whole, she has done all of the heavy lifting. Only thing I did, I was impatient and just wanted to start it because I was ready to do something different, and I didn't want to wait any longer, and I wanted to get this off the ground. I mean, I did this in federal court, which is different than what we do now, and it's the wrong idea to say we're going to do it exactly how federal court is, just like you wouldn't run a misdemeanor court like a felony court.
Right.
Just because you walk in a federal court and they're like, here it is, here's everything, and here's your trial date. We can't do that. So the way I'm using it is you're not getting a trial date. We're going setting to setting, but you know that you're in there for a specific reason. And you know that you're here for this specific reason and this reason only. And if, frankly, there'll be times you need more time, hey, I was in trial, Judge. I didn't get a chance to sit down with them. So I'm in.
Right.
I was in 3 back-to-back trials, which, may happen to all of us, right? Yeah, it's going to happen.
It's only happened to JV in the last year and a half.
No, I know, but it does happen.
Yeah, and if that's legitimately the issue, it's like, okay, I'm all right with that. How long do you need to meet with them? That's legitimate. Yeah. If it's the defendant refuses to come into your office, doesn't return your phone calls, that's a whole different issue.
Problem.
Yeah, which happens. I was a defense attorney.
Sure.
I get that. You can try as hard as you want. Sometimes they just don't show up, or they change their number, or whatever. That's not going to slow down my docket either, and that's going to be like, all right, when can you meet with him? We're going to, if it's, I don't know, you can come back. When he's available, you will meet with him, and the next day we're having the status conference.
So we know, okay, is this idea, which quite frankly is
I think it's long overdue.
Long overdue.
Yeah.
Is this a sentiment or feeling that's adopted, or do you feel like it's something that most of the district courts are kind of feeling, or is it not?
I think a lot of them have kind of jumped into this idea.
Yeah.
And we all have different ideas about how we want it to work. And, Judge Long has been spending a lot of time on trying to give lots of clarity as to what's going to be a complex case and what's not going to be a complex case.
Sure.
For me, that's a decision I can make on a case-by-case basis. And for me, it's just something I'm just going to get a feel for it. I make a quick decision about it. And frankly, if you tell me it's going to be complicated, I'm going to take your word for it. Same thing with the prosecutor, right? I'm not going to argue about this with you, but for Jason, he wants even more clarity. And so I think we're all basically on the same form of structure. We may use it a little differently. Some judges want those auto-populated dates. I don't, because I don't think it'll work. Because, when
you say, what do you mean by auto-populated?
You come in, you have a setting in 90 days, your case management. Your discovery is going to be in 60 days. Then your status conference is going to be 90 days after that, and then your pretrial conference, then we're setting you for trial.
So the first day you get actual
You have
dates.
all those dates. And I don't think that'll work. So let's, just to one of the cases that normally does have a grand jury packet in felony court is obviously the sexual assaults of children, right? That's usually something, or a majority of the time, defense attorney feels like putting the time and effort into a packet and possibly putting your cards on the table may make a difference.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so if you're waiting on things, that guy's going to see a doctor for a risk assessment, you're working on all these things, you know, we can't have a discovery conference if the case is not indicted. You know? But at the same time, like, do I really need to push you to an examining trial 2 days later because it's not indicted? Especially when everybody wants that to happen. They want that packet to be there. And frankly, if you can get it no-billed at that point, it voids the trial, right? Like that moves the docket. So I think at that point, like if I have a discovery conference and you don't have the case indicted, then where are we at? You know?
Right.
And then we're gonna start auto-populating all these dates. And most of the defendants in our building, you know, they're not all type A personalities. They lose their phones, they change their numbers all the time, they don't keep good calendars. I give them 15 different dates on a different case and they're gonna lose all of that. Yeah.
That's true.
I have found that while technology has pushed the ball in some areas, it has really not pushed the ball in others. So for example, one of them being, now granted, I do not, and nor am I advocating people coming beyond the courthouse and defendants coming in on every setting or none of that. No. However, Jesus, like I lose a third, no, 20% of the individuals that I represent, they lose their phones, they change their numbers. I mean, and I'm sitting there like I'm having to
play detective.
Yeah,
right?
play detective. Like, where are you? I'm like an investigator. Like, I'm like, where are you? I have to find you. I'm tracking them down and all kinds of things. And, you know, I guess it's just part of
that building should have, you know, God willing, should have been taken down in a flood. Like, it's horrible.
The flood tried.
Yeah, it gave a good college effort, right?
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, it's impossible to get. You guys see the lines, you know? Like, I drive past those lines every morning. Like, getting people up into court is a problem.
Now you get to drive past them. And do you get to park underground yet?
I do. I get to park on the ground. And,
nice.
And our elevator's been broken, so I've been slumming it.
Oh, so you're like us.
Yeah. No, I've gotten one judge's elevator and had to, like, walk through courts. But, you know, like, all joking aside, like, the building's just not meant for more people to be in it. And our dockets are huge. And so what do we need to, like, as judges and as stewards of that building, we need to have less people in there. Mm-hmm. You know, and then having them there for 30 days is, you're right, like, it's not. There are people who are in jail who plead, but there are people who are just coming here and they're about to lose their jobs. Mm-hmm. And then they plead because it's, all right, like if I lose this job, I don't know where I'm going to be. It doesn't matter if I go to prison at that point. Like, because I'm not going to have a job, I'm not going to have a house, I'm not going to have a wife, I'm not going to have a car, so then what? And so we all know that happens. And so getting people there less until we need them, you know? If I need them in 90 days, that's fine. If they have bond violations, let's bring them in ahead of time. You know, it's just being smart about when we use our limited court space.
I have seen so that we have the new rehabbed first floor, like entrance of the courthouse. And the last maybe week, particularly the last couple of days, I guess as more people are coming, and you kind of see them on routine days, maybe like on Mondays or like on Wednesdays or...
They still do arraignments on Fridays?
Right, like Fridays.
Yeah.
Like that, that's not going to work. I mean, if the CJC ever...
God forbid, right?
God forbid. If it ever goes back to how, like, that's not going to work because you are having all of these people on the first floor and it's not working. Like, it's just not going to work.
Well, if you've noticed, there's actually 2 security screening sides and they only have one open right now. So I'd like to think if they ever open up the second one, or if they ever really get people coming back in, they can open up the other side of the building. You know, when you walk in on the right-hand side, that's all a second screening area. I've never seen them start using it. There's like 3 more metal detectors over there. So they could double the flow if they need to. I just haven't seen them turn on that.
And I think the idea is to get more people inside. You know, obviously it's ridiculously hot outside. And when it's not hot, it rains. You know?
Well, and I saw last week or two when we had a bunch of rain, man, there were people coming. I was like, that is so sad that you're here. I'm talking people just soaked.
Yeah.
Just drenched. And then they come in, and it's just like, you just go home. I'm thinking to myself, well, I mean, I'm not thinking to myself, go home, because I'm like, whatever you're here for, there should be a reason for it. So.
Well, and that's my theory too. It's just, why are you here?
Yeah.
Like,
why are you here?
No, it's like, well, you know, you're on the docket tomorrow, so what are we doing tomorrow? You're like, I don't know, just setting, we'll see. Maybe they'll offer them something good. You know, and that's just, we don't have the space for that. We just can't do that anymore.
Who are the is Chandler Raines up in your is
Chandler Rain is the chief assigned to my court. Yes.
chief, and then who else in there?
Becky Marshall is the 2.
Great, amazing. Becky's great.
Yeah, and then Ryan Fuller is the 3.
Wasn't Ryan going to trial recently? He's going to come up, or he just finished up?
Ryan's pled out every one of his trials I've sent down to NRG, so I'm trying to get him in trial.
I would
much
say-
to his chagrin.
Hey, look, Ryan, I'm coming for you, Ryan. I'm coming. No, Ryan's an
I think
amazing individual.
he should be getting his first felony trial on Monday.
I think that's what it was. Is it
yeah.
against Ray Vasquez?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ray was
So-
all crying about it.
That's
Nah,
right,
forget it.
I
I
heard
didn't say
about
anything about it.
I think Ray may be sandbagging a little bit.
Yeah, Ray
Oh,
was
kid,
like-
never win this case.
Yeah,
And-
I told Ray, I said, look, I'll go up with you, man. It's fine. We'll get beat up together.
No,
It's something.
from what they've told me in open court, and this is not,
Yeah,
anything
it's
that
open
doesn't
court
stand,
stuff.
just-
It's open court stuff.
It's one officer. It's an evading.
It's an evading. It's
and
25 to life.
and
what
it's
I
on
understand.
video.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I mean, it's a
Well,
10-minute video.
what y'all don't know is there was a twin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Giving away
Tell
trial
him that.
secrets.
God.
I mean, it's also Ray, and he's wonderful.
Where
it's
is
gonna
Ray?
be, yeah, it's gonna be a
See if I
great
can
trial.
get Ray
Right?
Vasquez
Like
right
either
now.
way, so. Ray will probably walk him on Charm Alone. You watch.
Well, I told Ray. I told Ray.
Would this face lie to you?
I said, Ray, it's about time you try to case, Ray. No, I'm kidding. I kid. So and it's good to see Ryan. I mean, Ryan's been around. I've seen him from from when he was a misdemeanor and going up.
He's still kind of a baby. I don't think he's shaven yet.
Well, hopefully Ray's gonna come at him with all he got.
Yeah.
But Ray was a little bit nervous.
I will say this about Ryan. I do think he has a little bit of talent in him. Like I think
Yes.
he has some raw talent.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
he's going to be, if he sticks with us, I think he's going to be an excellent prosecutor.
Oh yeah.
He
Oh
is.
yeah.
The couple of times I've had hearings with them, you see this little spark, and it's kind of, and it's not necessarily in prosecutors anymore. When you see somebody who's like, all right, there might be something into this. Like he may be good at this.
Yeah, he's
and It's just
good.
really, it's like fun to watch that, and especially in a young lawyer. So
Yeah.
I got high hopes for him.
Oh yeah. I want to say I think he was valedictorian, man.
Was he really?
South Texas College of Law. He was up there. Either valedictorian or like salutatorian or something.
You sure on that?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure on it. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I remember
See it on
as
TV, it's
when
true.
when he was a misdemeanor. I had plenty with him. I was like, I'm coming for you, bro. We're gonna do this.
Well, that's it's the unforeseen consequences of more PTIs on DWI is a good thing, right?
Yep.
Just because it haunts people for the rest of their lives. But the problem with that is these prosecutors aren't getting their butts kicked by people like y'all, right? And they're not learning those hard lessons that we all learned. When I was a young prosecutor, getting my butt kicked by older lawyers,
Well-
like it's good for you. It makes you a better lawyer, and it makes you better evaluating cases.
Well, and it's good to hear that you have. They shall remain nameless, but it's good to hear you have Chandler Rain as a chief prosecutor. However, you'll see in some courts where, the chief prosecutor has like 10 trials under them, and it's like,
It's 10 more than anyone else in the court.
oh, it's 10 more. At the same time, though, look, this case is good for trial. Okay, put your drug addict, crack witness on the stand, and
Let's have some fun.
Yeah, we're gonna have some fun with this. Well, I've read the offense report and I've done the RIP and I've listened to 911. Yeah, but they're a crack
You don't
addict.
see how that's going to work.
Yeah, we're
front of
gonna
the
go
jury.
ahead and do this in the trial.
Yeah, but you know what? You do this as a defense attorney too. Like I can put my guy. I remember telling Christian, I can put anybody on the stand. I can get anybody ready to testify. I'm ready for this. And the first time you put your defendant on the stand, no matter how long you work with them, they get up there and they get in the lights and they just start agreeing with everything the prosecutor says. And you're just like, what?
No,
why do we meet for 10 hours?
Exactly.
Like why? What did we
Exactly.
talk about?
Totally
This
not
is
do
nothing you told me. Yeah,
Totally
and
not
so
do
it's just, but it's experience, right?
Right.
Like you learn things from experience. I'm sure you did. Like what makes you a good trial lawyer? What makes you a good trial lawyer is having been in trial.
Trying cases,
Right.
right.
It's a little bit of talent, but it's a lot of it's hard work. And knowing what the work you need to do and knowing how to evaluate a case. And you do that by getting your butt kicked a couple times.
A couple times and looking like getting egg on your face. Just a couple. Even me, man.
Even me.
Even me. No, in the
Really? You?
no, in the sense of
You've never gotten your butt kicked.
I've got my butt kicked all over the planet. Like
You in the black cube?
Oh, and I use the black cube. So I have this presumption of innocence cube, and I'm like, here's the scales of
I can tell when
justice.
JV's in trial when I go into a courtroom and I'm like,
There's
where's
the cube.
JV? There's
Yes.
the cube. JV's in trial.
So
Where's the cube?
it's a
Giving away all
visual
the
thing.
secrets.
Yeah, it's a visual thing.
Some prosecutor right now is typing up a
They're
motion
like,
to
wait a
eliminate
second.
that you can't
Look
use
into
the
the
cube.
cube.
Yeah, it's a black cube. It's a presumption of innocence cube, and it's on
Like
the
a magic
scales,
8-ball?
and it's like it's
No, it's like a paperweight that like sucks all the light from the room and the universe into it.
because I mean, what
You
can
can
we,
get anything on Amazon, but still, I'm kind of impressed.
what can we presume in life, right? What? There's two things really.
Tell me.
Death and
And
taxes.
taxes, yeah.
Right? And
The black cube.
the presumption of innocence, and it sits right here, and it never moves. And who's responsible for putting things on the other side? That black cube sits right here. Who is responsible for putting things on the other side to lift and overcome that presumption of
The
innocence?
jury.
The jury. Well, the state.
I'll tell you, yeah, it's not a jury, it's a state.
State.
Oh, to
State
overcome it.
To overcome.
Yeah.
And who determines how much those things weigh?
The jury.
Jury.
The jury.
Got one.
And that sits right here. Anyways,
You know what? I'll give you this too, because we all, and I did this too. I was guilty of it. We all use that sliding scale, right?
Sure.
Like over here they
Yeah.
take your money, over here they take your kids.
Yeah.
Way on the other side of the
Yeah.
room, yeah.
yeah. So
It's a very different way. I give you credit for it. It's a different way of looking at it.
Well, I do the so I've altered that, and I do a picture of Mount Everest, right, and on Mount Everest, and I say, here, right here. If I say I climb Mount Everest and I'm here, you're gonna believe me. No. If I'm here, you're not gonna believe me. No. If I'm here, no. If you notice, I don't have to stand on the top of Mount Everest like Rocky does in the
Rocky,
yeah,
no.
Rocky 4. But if I'm
That's
close,
Russia.
yeah,
Such
with
a
the
bad
Russians.
example.
It was hoping you let that go, Judge, but
Right. Well, interestingly, Dana Nazarova, who's Ukraine, I used that with her, and I was like, we don't have to be like the Russians, do we? And I looked at her. But, she Dana?
Yeah, no. I have her and, what's his name? Who works for Nicole DeBorg. And they're both Russian. They both speak Russian.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
yeah.
I know where you're at.
Yeah, and they like literally broke into Russian to
I
the
used
court,
it.
and I was like, this will be interesting.
Yeah, I used it. But it's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
like, it's not all the way to the top, but it's somewhere in between. I also use something that I've been using is the pack. So like the reasonable doubt, it's like a wolf pack. It's like a dog pack. And to get through an officer to get through reasonable suspicion, has to get through the Chihuahua. Well, okay, but to get through clear and convincing, or preponderance, has to get through the English Bulldog. And to get through clear and convincing, has to get through the Rottweiler. But to get to reasonable doubt, to get here, they have to get through the pack. And the pack is, who's the pack? And if somebody inevitably says, like, oh, the jury's the pack.
Yeah.
Yes, you are the pack. And the pack acts alone. The pack acts as a unit and together. And these kind of things. But those are some of the ways I explain the reasonable doubt.
They just, not a whole lot of cat people then.
Yeah, well,
yeah, exactly. I was hoping there's not.
Yeah, I need to think about the cat.
No, it's this interesting way we talk juries, right? We always try new things, and some of the stuff, it's nice hearing new ideas. It's kind of fun.
Let me ask you, as a judge, and who's, has your, because maybe you'll be a judge forever. Maybe, and quite frankly, I think I see you on the federal bench, okay? That's just long term, whatever. You do what you do, and I see you in the future, right?
Feel free to vote for me for the federal bench. If
Well,
you want
fair. But do you think if in some alternate universe or in the future, who knows what happens, as you come back, and whether you work for the state or defense in the future, how is your position as a judge shaped you as a lawyer or changed you?
I'm
think it has?
such a better judge. I'm such a
Right?
better litigator. I'm such a better lawyer. The thing is, too, is when you're in private practice, you may get like a certain couple of cases. Like Neil Davis has all these sex cases, right? But like as a judge, and you may get like one interesting case a year, maybe two interesting cases, maybe one a month. The judge is like every like weird case that's ever filed, like you handle it, and you have
Right.
like all these lawyers educating you about it, and you have time to kind of dig into these things and research issues, and you get so many more reps than you would
Sure.
as a defense attorney, And like if you walk some guy in a DWI, like next time one of his friends gets a DWI, he's hopefully going to refer you to a DWI.
Right.
And so you can get pigeonholed. You end up doing a lot of drug cases. You end up doing a lot of assault family member cases.
Yeah.
But you just get this wide variety of cases, and you're constantly learning. It's really been enjoyable. It's really like the most rewarding job I've ever had.
What's been the worst part of it?
You.
I'll set that up. We talked before the
Softball.
show.
We're
Set
talking
that
about
one
the
up.
softball.
Yeah.
That's a softball. You know what? Me
This
too,
is-
Justin. Me too.
No, this is going to sound like the cheesiest thing, but like literally sentencing someone to prison.
That's tough, dude. It has to be. And maybe it's not.
No, even like, I just had a murder case, and he was a true habitual, and I gave the guy 45 years. And, like, I felt horrible. Like, someone's dead. He's been convicted by a jury. Like, there's just no good number. Like, it just, it doesn't make the world a better place that I put him in prison. It's just really, really hard. And he turned around and, like, he's like, can I say something, Judge? And he was all aggressive. And I was like, all right, I'm the one sentencing you. Have at it, Like, I can stand here for 5 minutes. It'll be fine, right? He just like, just thank you. You were fair. And turns around to the family and goes, I'm sorry it went down this way. I was wrong. Should never have done it.
Get out.
I just want your forgiveness. The family's like, and I literally was like so stressed about this. And he was just like, this is the right thing. Like, I understand. I accept it. He's like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And the family's like, it's okay. We don't think you're a bad person. We just think you made a bad choice. And I sat there going, what the hell just happened here?
Whoa.
This wouldn't happen if I was the lawyer.
Yeah, right?
Wait.
It's really, really hard, though. Like, no matter what you do, it just sucks. It just is really, it just weighs heavy on your heart, and it just is.
I
guess it should, right? Like, you're right.
Yeah.
You really should.
If you're not affected by it, then maybe kind of time to step aside.
And maybe that's the thing with some of these, you're on the bench for such a long period of time, you just, you lose a little bit of that.
Do you think that being on Zoom made it a little harder to connect?
It's just weird, and the problem is like the big problem I have with Zoom is that, like, if you're working for the state and JV is a defense attorney.
I want to be the defense attorney. He's the state.
And then what happened?
Yeah, exactly. What happened next?
And then what happened?
Being a defense attorney a lot of times is being the 2-year-old and knocking down the dominoes that your older brother set up. Trying to get from point to A, point B, and you see obnoxious 2-year-old going like that.
Yeah.
I explained that to my wife one time. I was like, being a prosecutor is meticulously setting up dominoes. Being a defense attorney is being the jackass 2-year-old who goes behind him and knocks it down.
Over there.
But, like, when you're on Zoom, it's just like, all right, what's going on? You guys aren't talking. You're waiting to talk to me. And me having a conversation usually doesn't do anything. Like,
I've found some judges, I feel like they're doing things that 2 years ago they wouldn't have done. And it's because I've never seen them in the court in the last year and a half. They're just on this little box in the courtroom, and I feel like they've been disconnected from the fact that you're not in the room breathing the same air as the person who you just ordered the bailiff from off camera to come on and take the person away. So now they're back off camera.
Yeah, it's having people in front of you and you saying who they are, and I think being a defense attorney helps because you sit with these guys. They're accused of some horrible things sometimes. Doesn't mean they're guilty of them, but, like, you're with that person for sometimes for years. Yeah. I had a guy in my court, Thiessen represented, and he represented the guy for like 5.5 years, and it was one of these cases pre-McSpadden, and we just eventually got around to trying it, and he was all fired up and apologized. Like, don't apologize, man. Be passionate. You're supposed to be. Yeah. That's what you're supposed to do with these guys. Like, if you don't care, the day you stop caring, But it is. I think you're right. Like, I think it does dehumanize people being on a screen and
that murder guy. If you'd try the whole case by that murder defendant, if he had tried that whole case on Zoom. He'd have been sitting there like in a holdover, trying to figure, and then he'd like, can I say something? Like, can y'all hear me? Can I say something? And then, like, well, I think the family's back there. Yeah, no. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. And then, Judge, you're up here. Like, thanks, that was a fair. That would have never happened.
There's just something about.
There has to be some human connection in trial work. Period. That I'm glad that we stopped having conversations that we were having 9 months ago about, are we going to have trials of witnesses on Zoom? And no, we can't do that because we can't see what witnesses have in front of them. But there's also more than that. There's a human connection that I think is lost. Yeah. When it looks like you're watching a TikTok video.
Well, also too, it's the witness like shifting in their seat.
Sure.
On the other hand, sometimes it's defendant like just huffing and puffing, and just mean mugging people, and it's just you get a better sense of people.
Right.
In the last trial I had, I said, I used it. I was like, did you see did you see her on the stand? This is why I love jury trials, because you remember when she said, "Huh," and she said, and he was he. I was like, when the prosecutor asked, well, did you have a gun? He said, well, not on me. And I was like, that's a joke. Like, everybody saw that. Like, I can't be the only person in the whole courtroom.
You get the transcript that says not me.
Yeah.
That's not the whole story.
Exactly.
And sometimes, witnesses who you don't think would be, who are telling a credible story, who are accusing somebody, they come across, they get on the stand, and you're just like, wow, this person really came across a lot credible than I thought they would be.
I'll tell you.
Kind of going into it.
I tried this. It was in October, one of the first COVID's trials. It was an aggravated sexual assault of a child. Jury came back guilty, and during punishment, they brought in extraneouses extraneouses of aggravated sexual assault of children throughout the country. So He had in numerous states. Okay, the allegation.
Who is the bad judge who appointed you on that one?
Judge Kelly Johnson.
It's
He
probably
said, "You're up."
It's probably good. You
No, and I said, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm up. I'm going to give this guy the defense that he deserves. And I was with the guy for 3 years, one of those. And I said, we're going to do this. And he was not. And he said he was not guilty. And he said, let's go. And we did it. It was the first COVID trial in the county. It was Judge Kelly Johnson, fair trial, all of it, and nothing bad about it. However, in punishment, they brought in one of the extraneous victims in another state that he had
Allegedly molested,
allegedly
or was convicted, or
allegedly ASAC'd her. Okay. So she comes on the Zoom, and because at that point they're still letting witnesses on Zoom. Okay, punishment witnesses on Zoom. It's the first COVID trial. We agreed to it, and I'm like, okay, cool.
you agreed to it?
I agreed because I had punishment witnesses throughout the state too, throughout the country
Yeah.
too. So I was like,
Good for the goose is good for the gander.
I was like, fine. You want to do that? I'm gonna bring in everybody else throughout the country to rebut that. Anyways, during this star punishment witness's testimony, you couldn't hear 80% of it, 90% of it.
Well, and also too, like having, having that kid in there to like, that's tough as a defense attorney.
Well,
I'd rather try that,
Maybe I'd like to have some complainants and put it on video.
here's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
During her testimony, and I knew what she was saying, but the jury didn't because they couldn't, because she was cutting in and out. It was
It's
terrible. Tough. The court reporter was like, "Why aren't you objecting?" I was like, "Because I don't want them to hear this.
Yeah.
I don't want them to hear anything of it.
Because nothing is on the record.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can't understand.
You stop typing.
Yeah, it's going to be like inaudible. I'm fine with that. And so, although at the end of the day it didn't work, he ended up getting like 60, but.
He's lucky he didn't get life.
Well, he should have. I'm not saying he should have.
No.
That,
If you molest more than 2 children, statistically speaking, that jury's going to give you life.
We're talking more than 2 children
Yeah.
in multiple states.
Yeah.
And he was on the lam when he finally got arrested here. And so they also brought other extraneous witnesses in that were for the other ones. But I was like, yeah, I'm not. So why aren't you objecting? I was like, because I can't hear it. And that's perfectly fine.
The less they know about this, the better.
I'm perfectly fine with this. And I think even in closing, I was like, you couldn't hear what she said.
And they're looking at you going, we don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
we
were like,
they were like,
enough. Nah.
Yeah, he did something bad again.
Like, nah.
I'll be dead in 60 years, so that's a good number for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think you're right, though. Just you don't get a feel for people on Zoom.
Yeah.
And you definitely, as a judge, you don't get a feel for like an individual as opposed to somebody who's standing there. And they're occasionally like some defendants will just tell you stuff. Like they'll be like, well, I was a veteran. And then it makes you, and it's like, all right, well, that makes a lot more sense. You're kind of going through this. Mm-hmm. Like I feel a lot differently. You're accused of beating your wife and, now you're like, I'm a veteran, I have issues. That changes a lot of how we feel.
It really does.
And then you get a feel, you like, maybe they're all conning you. Maybe you're just, you're misreading the situation. But I think you do get a better feel for people. I think you're right. Like it's just in a box. It's just, and it's also too, like they don't know Zoom etiquette very well. They're not as used to it. And so like they're just like, hey, what's up, Judge? I had a judge call me bro once. I was like, hey, bro. I was like, what?
Wait.
I mean, not that you get mad about it, but it's just like this is just not how this system is supposed to work.
You blame them almost. You're like, they're just
they're
reducing everything down to the little black mirrors that we all carry around with us.
Yeah, I know. And then, they sit there, and sometimes like our dockets are big, and they may sit there for 2 hours, like on his phone or on the computer, and they start doing other stuff, and then you finally call on them, they can't figure out how to unmute it, and all those lovely problems.
I've seen people on Zoom smoking cigarettes, laying down.
Have you heard about Deshaun Jones?
No, I want to hear some of his stories. We need to get Deshaun on, or you can tell us.
I've heard this from Deshaun as well. I heard this rumor a couple times. I asked him about it, but apparently a woman began to have sexual intercourse on Zoom with the camera on in his docket.
That's incredible.
And Deshaun's like cool as the other side of the pillow, right? Like, nothing phases that dude whatsoever.
No.
I'm sure he was just like, he turns to her and goes, ma'am, can you turn off the camera?
I will say Judge Jones has been.
Can you just mute it, please? Like,
Oh God, I didn't even think about that.
I'll say Judge Jones has been. I'm not gonna say I'm surprised at all, but I'm gonna say that I am impressed, and he has done such a spectacular job on that
Good.
bench.
I'm really glad to hear that. I mean, I've never practiced him from. I like him personally, but there's a lot of people. How somebody is on the bench, and how you're friends with them or whatever. But he is probably the funniest judge we have on the bench. Like he'll go 20 minutes without saying anything, and then we'll say the funniest thing in the world.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
He's just like
Man, that's what I'm
he has
saying.
like the straight poker face, and then he'll say like the funniest thing in the world. Yeah, I'm glad to hear he's doing well.
so let me ask this.
We got 1 minute.
Oh, we do? Never mind. It's for another show.
No, what's the question?
I just want to know, so you talked about Judge Anastasio, Judge Johnson, Judge Jones. Why don't the misdemeanor and district court judges ever seem to mingle and talk?
We haven't mingled and talked with anyone in a year, right?
You've done with Judge Anastasio enough to be able to borrow her docket control order. But
She emailed it to me, and then I stole it. I didn't even see her in person. She didn't even hand it to me. Misdemeanors, they're just different, and now they're not
why? The penal code section that applies is different. That gives them jurisdiction in a lower level court. But the procedural code's all the same. The prosecutor's office is still the same prosecutor's office. I'm in your court, and the same morning I'm in a county court. Why don't the district court? I mean, Judge Bynum has a scheduling order that's kind of similar to yours.
I looked at his a little bit, and I just didn't think it covered everything that I needed to cover.
And I can see that.
But we're not talking about presenting cases to the grand jury for the most part, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that.
Well, actually, in Judge Bynum's court, they go to the grand jury quite a bit.
I've heard that. Yeah, I had.
Anyway,
asked
I'm
Todd
talking
Overstreet
over
about
your
that. He had a case indicted that landed in my court, and then I signed a transfer order to send it down to misdemeanor, and it showed up as a DWI third conviction on her on the clerk's office. And he was
Interesting.
flipping out about it because she can't get it expunged and it says conviction even though it's not. But yeah, we're talking about having cases indicted, talking about different punishment ranges. We do have more people in jail. They have nobody in jail, right? I think it is a little different to do the same things and to say, the state has to be ready within 90 days on the Class A, right? They have to be ready to trial,
Right.
and you can set it for trial. I'm never going to set something for trial in 90 days because they have 90 days to indict it. And
Right.
then they have 10 days. So even at that point, you're never going to be ready. You're not entitled to discovery until the 90th day.
Well, we definitely should talk some more about that because I think there's some similarities, but I do see the differences. But
Yeah.
JD,
1 minute
you gotta-
left. Here's a really complicated, very
We're about to have
complex
the
call.
credits rolled over. That's my fault. Sorry.
Nah.
Hey,
I said I didn't
look-
want to ask, and y'all made me.
Hey, well,
Well, no, yeah, it's a great question for me to stumble out on my way out here.
Thanks for
Hey.
coming on.
No,
Judge.
thank you all for having me. I really appreciate
There
it.
it goes.
Judge Warren on the 209th District Court, Justin Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association. They're already rolling the credits. Hey, thank you so much for being here.
Can they even hear us?
I don't think so.